We are recording.
All right. Okay, the time is 6 p.m. This is the Suamico Village Board meeting for Monday, April 7th, 2025. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order. And just a reminder for anyone speaking this evening, please, when you come forward, please speak directly into the microphone and provide your name and address for the record, as this is being recorded. All right, at this time, I would like to, I'm going to offer a motion because there's a change here. I'm going to offer a motion to approve the evening's agenda. What I would like to do is move item 9A, which is the resolution of gratitude to the Green Bay Area Great Lakes Sport Fishing Club. I would like to move that item 9A just before item 7, Public Works items. That is the motion I am offering. Is there a second?
I will second that motion with the amended agenda.
So I have made a motion to approve the evening's agenda, moving 9A just before the Public Works item 7. That motion has been seconded by Trustee Romas. Any other further comments or questions on this item? Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the agenda as stated, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? The motion carries 7-0. Thank you. All right, let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good. All right. Item number 5 this evening, public appearances. So public appearances is the point at the agenda reserved for anyone in the audience who is here to speak to an item not on the agenda. If you are here for an item on the agenda, we will try to provide every opportunity for you to share your thoughts. But is there anyone here who would like to speak to an item not on the agenda? All right, very well. Seeing no one. Item number 6 this evening is the consent agenda. The consent agenda this evening consists of previous minutes of the village board dated March 17th, 2025. The item B, February 2025 animal control report. Item C, March 2025 municipal court report. Item D, February 2025 fire report. And item E, amendment to the combination Class B intoxicating liquor and Class B beer licenses for Schuetz Bar and Grill Incorporated, 3375 Side Street, Suamico, Wisconsin. Agent Steve Schutte to expand the outdoor area temporarily for the NFL draft. Is there discussion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Trustee Eckert has offered a motion to approve the consent agenda. That has been seconded by Trustee Romas. Any other further thoughts? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. All right, as stated, we are taking item 9A this evening. Item 9A is Resolution 25005, a resolution of gratitude to the Green Bay Area Great Lakes Sport Fishing Club for the purchase of equipment valued at $6,000. Chief Bertler.
Thank you, and thank you for moving it up for their time. So earlier this year, actually, beginning of the ice season, we had a few incidents on the ice, a few rescues, people go through, had unfortunately someone pass away as well with that. The Great Lakes Sports Fishing Club heard about that and wanted to help us out. They purchased a ice water sled and a ice water rescue suit for us, shown as the picture. So one nice feature of this thing is we have it's called kind of banana boat, but we have to blow it up on scene. One thing with this ice water rescue sled, it's easily deployable, kind of just open it up and it's ready to go. So they are here tonight. We have Jeff and Mike from the Great Lakes Sports Fishing Club. Just want to thank them. Gentlemen, want to stand up in the back. And just a resolution before you to, should you approve, I'm thanking them for the donation.
All right, would you like me to read this agenda or read this resolution?
Up to you. Sean, just read the
Sure.
top.
Well, for a donation this
Yeah,
generous,
please do.
that's the least we can do. To the Board of Trustees, a resolution of gratitude to the Green Bay Area Great Lakes Sport Fishing Club for the purchase of equipment valued at $6,000. The Board of Trustees of the Village Board of Suamico do resolve as follows. Whereas the Suamico Fire Department is committed to protecting the safety and well-being of the community by providing high-quality emergency services, including fire protection and prevention, and whereas the Green Bay Area Great Lakes Sport Fishing Club has made a generous contribution to enhance the safety and preparedness of our water rescue operations, and whereas their purchase donation of a Rescue Alive ice water rescue sled and ice water rescue suit valued at $6,000, which will significantly improve the efficiency and effectiveness of ice and water rescues in our community. And whereas the Rescue Alive equipment will help ensure the safety of individuals in perilous water conditions, particularly during ice-related emergencies, and will provide our first responders with the tools necessary to perform rescues in the harshest of environments. And now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the undersigned, extend our deepest gratitude and most appreciation to the Green Bay Area Great Lakes Sport Fishing Club for their generous purchase of the Rescue Alive Ice Water Rescue Sled and the Ice Water Rescue Suit, which will undoubtedly save lives and improve our ability to respond to water-related emergencies. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to the Green Bay Area Great Lakes Sport Fishing Club in recognition of their outstanding generosity and commitment to the safety of our community. Adopted on this day, the 7th day of April, 2025. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Could I get a motion on this, please?
I'd like to make a motion to formally adopt this resolution of gratitude to the Green Bay Area Great Lakes Sport Fishing Club for the purchase of the equipment valued at $6,000.
Thank you. Trustee Romas has offered a motion to adopt the resolution of gratitude, and that has been seconded.
Trustee
Why did I
McKeefer.
lose you for a second? Trustee McKeefer, thank you. Happens every so often. There's a lot of reading there. All right, so we've got a motion offered and a motion seconded. All those, roll call, thank you.
Trustee Netto.
Aye.
Trustee McKeefer.
Aye.
Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Stevens.
Aye.
Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Eckert.
Aye.
President Van Rossum.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Thank
Excellent.
you.
And if you wouldn't mind, maybe take 2 seconds to take
Yeah.
a quick picture up in front.
Let's please do that.
And thank you very much. So does that thing, it folds, so it slides and floats.
Hey, Chief, is that suit gonna fit you?
Don't want to be in the middle.
I think they're gonna have to take it in a little bit, Chief.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Ooh, can we photobomb?
That's very cool.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not is right.
Hopefully not.
A couple years ago, we all went for the east side of the bay, and they have one over there, and if by chance they had to use it over here. On this side, take a couple hours to get that sled over here, so we decided to buy one for Suamico Fire Department. So in case they needed it right away, they have one, so.
Very nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, we'll be saving you a spot out there by Tix Harbor Lights. That's up to you.
Inside the barn.
Inside, yeah.
All right. All right.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Okay, let's go. Item 7, Public Works. Items 7A, permanent well number 5, construction contract to Midwest Well Services using impact fees as the funding source. Director Smith.
All right, thank you. As part of the well number 5 project development, the Public Works and Utility Committee directed staff to move forward with the bidding to construct the permanent well to keep the project moving and to be able to continue collecting the information we need to design the remainder of the facility. The permanent well was bid out with bids being opened on March 13th, 2025. An addendum was issued to extend the contract time allowed to complete the drilling from 60 to 150 days with the hope of increasing interest in the work. We only received one bid for the project. I have attached the bid summary and recommendation statement from Ayers. Midwest Well Services was the only bid coming in at $572,957. The estimate that we were working with in our project schedule for this part of the project was $450,000. The current impact fee balance as of the end of year of 2025 was $609,610. Currently, it's at $633,367.33. The Public Works and Utility Committee supported moving forward with the construction of the permanent well 6-0 at our last meeting in March. So tonight, we will look for a motion to approve the project to keep the well development on schedule and the ability to obtain the information we need to design the rest of the facility. Any questions?
Yes. So obviously, it's 27% over
Yep.
what the budget was. How does the entire project look? I mean, this is one slice of it. The initial estimates for this well versus where we stand now versus how much we have to go. So can you kind of give me an overall picture of that?
So everything that I've been working with Ayers and Donahue with is the rest of the project is not expected to come in, over anything that we shouldn't have built into our contingency. The limitation on this part of it is there's just such few contractors that actually perform municipal or high-capacity well drilling in the whole state. There's like 2 or 3 companies. They're all very busy. We had the one contractor that did the test well for us. We were hoping he would bid on it. He's always been very reasonable, but he came back and told me that his price would have almost been double of what we did receive for a bid. Hopefully, the remainder of the project, we have contingencies built in for what would come in over expected. Hopefully, as well, everything that I've been learning and reading and picking up with on our meetings with Ayers is the construction of the facility end of it all shouldn't be as bad. There's a lot more suppliers and contractors available for once you start getting into the building itself. It is pretty select on the treatment when it comes to the treatment for the facility. There's really only 2 companies, again, in the state that do offer the pressure filter treatment option that we're moving forward with. So again, their estimates should be close on some of that. They work with these companies every day on designing facilities all over our region. So we're hoping that we're still going to be on par with our original estimate.
Okay. So this one was high, but prior ones were lower? Or we just had enough built into a contingency that we're comfortable?
There was a contingency for this part or phase of the project development.
We have a contingency on the whole project.
Right.
There's contingencies in each phase of the development of it also. There's, we don't have like one lump sum contingency at the end, but there's 4 or 5 different sections with the contingency built into each one. I mean, everything that we're still looking to, gather and construct this with should be on track. The only item that, I'm being told that is kind of an unknown is the electrical side. There's been some significant costs with electrical and components that go with that, so we'll see.
When did this project kick off?
When,
What year?
like
What year-
the actual,
Like, when did this project actually start? The
oh, we've
design-
been, the design, I think about the end of 2023, maybe we really got it going. Like the actual design of this facility with theirs, and we've been discussing analysis and facts and system capabilities for like almost 10 years, but we actually just started moving forward with this facility itself in about the mid part of 2023, I think, is when we got on board with Ayers and got the process moving.
Yeah, a little bit. So the reason I was asking that question is that back when I was on the Public Works Committee, we were talking about this well. So that was my concern is like, if all those estimates happened prior to, say, the COVID spike.
Right.
Post-COVID spike, that we might be looking at a bigger problem. But I'm hearing from you today is that our overall original budget still looks good. It's just this one is a spike within that budget. And that's not abnormal. You know, you're not always going to get everything right. Sometimes you really win on something, sometimes you lose. But just trying to make sure that we're not trending off into some
I hope,
big dig
I'm with you on that
scenario.
too.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how
Thank you.
I don't know how we can say that yet, because we haven't bid anything, and we've bid the drilling. And so my question is, the equipment that's coming in, the filtration, is that imported? Or is
No,
that domestic
it's
stuff?
domestic.
So you don't think there's any tariffs coming on that?
Not that I'm aware of.
I would be
The only
asking that
thing is,
question, yeah.
you know, the steel of the water tower.
Yeah, you don't, so the equipment might be manufactured here, but the
Right.
components are probably,
Right.
at least to some degree, is there a significant portion of this that would be made up of electronic components?
There's a portion of it. It's not, I mean, I wouldn't say it's significant, but it's some, for sure.
And the technology that's involved in the filtration, is that to the best of your?
Yeah, I have no idea where that's coming from.
I would just ask that question. I think
I
we
don't
should-
know. There's two suppliers that are interested in providing the treatment for it, and we're working with them for our test well, or the pilot tests that we have to do. But I don't know where the equipment comes from, you know, each component. But
Well,
I
I
can certainly
just think
ask.
that, you know, in anything, we know that everything that we have in the US has some element of components that do come from overseas, whether they're semiconductors or various components. So there is that potential. I guess what I'm saying is, and this is I don't want, you were speaking and I just jumped in.
No, my question is, I understand that, you know, we have these situations. My question is if we're running at 25 to 27% ahead of plan on one component, if this carries through, then we've got a budget we have to address as a group here that's going to be sitting much higher than what we had forecasted originally. Because if I recall, the engineers had shared with us a relatively solid number, and things have changed, and we put contingencies on top of that. We're up against that contingency already. So my question is, how do we maybe get some, before we make this commitment, how do we get some look into the tower? That's a bunch of steel, and potential tariffs on steel, and/or pricing increases on that. And I guess I would look to them to give us some insight as to what do we think's coming towards us.
Well, either way you look at it, the well is separate, and we need a water source, and this is how we start all that. I don't like the price either, but given the circumstances, we have to keep going with it. I think that's what we agreed, well, that's what we agreed on as a committee.
Yeah, and just to be clear, to
And-
make sure everybody understands, this is just for drilling the well itself. So
It's just
nothing
the well.
above, just drilling the hole, the borehole for the well, along with the analysis of the water. That would be this step of the project. So no facility, no building, no constructing of anything. This is the drilling and analyzing of the water.
And ideally, the purpose of the tariffs is to eventually bring things back here so that we can make it here, so that we don't have to make everything everywhere else.
Understood. So I understand the well is one component. The well needs other components. We need filtration, and we need whether a tank on the ground or a tower in the air. So I'm trying to get a better grip on what do we think this whole project's going to come in at? And just getting some insight from, you know, the times have changed in just in the last 6 months. So we should just be prepared to have discussions around, do we think this is going to run long?
Yeah, and I think
what
we
are our
should,
options?
we should be prepared, you know, but we have still used the original estimates of, I mean, the estimates were updated. They were less than the 9.5 total at the
Right.
beginning. We have updated them, you know, before, about last year. We're using the 9.5 for our PSC construction authorization, which forecasts your rate projection, and they're the ones that authorize any of the work to be done, you know, knowing how it's going to impact your utility. And we're using the 9.5 for that. So if we come in at 10.5 overall, you know, the PSC is going to have an issue with it too, and they may not approve that project at that point in time.
And we don't want to use all of our impact fees, but that it's still all covered to this point with all impact fees.
I mean, we may, what this does, and to to your point, what this does is we may, at some point down the road, as much as we, may have agreement that a tower seemed like the right idea at one point, if the costs are out of control, we may be looking at ground storage, just to get this done. But
It's,
it's
we don't have to go there yet.
Right.
And this well will tell us
Right.
treatment-wise, and it'll give us more info going forward. But I think we have to keep it going. And
Because
I think once you have the well and you have the analysis of the water and the quality and the treatment components that will be required through the pilot test, that'll really allow heirs to dial in a new, maybe we'll update, it won't be maybe, we will update the estimate and make sure we're still on track for what we started this at. You don't want to go down and say, oh, it's a waste of what we're doing if it comes in high, but I think you need this information to keep going to the next level that we need to get to. And that is certainly an option, if the towers comes back at, instead of 2, it's 3, if a ground storage reservoir is sufficient and it will work, that's definitely a consideration that the village board can make, and we can
And
offer that information.
I still am concerned that that tower is too high a capacity for the future of it, but we're not there yet. And we'll take it.
No matter what, we would come back with new estimates before we bid out the rest of the facility. So this is just to get us the information we need to put the entire bid package together for the facility, the treatment, and the tower. You guys will still approve that before it goes out to bid, and we'll make sure the estimates are provided to you guys at that time so you're comfortable with what you're even putting out to bid. And then obviously we'd receive those bids and work from there.
What is the timing on getting the rest of the bids in? Design and bid?
We were hoping to have the rest of this project out for bid by later this, about fall.
By fall.
We're shooting for the fall to have the rest of the project out for bid.
And then, Andy, how long do you think it'll be before you get hard numbers back? How long do you usually bid that for?
We usually post it for 30 days.
30 days.
I'd say by the end of this year or January of next year, we should have new updates with bid information, really.
Yeah, it's, to your point, trustee Eckert, for us to think about things even further down the road, so much could change between now and then.
I mean, we do need to, but I think we need to take step one before because it'll tell us more going forward.
it's important that we keep our eyes on it.
And we have the money for it at this point.
And I'll just say that
Not long,
one of
but
the fundamental things that we as a village have to do is this correctly. We have to provide good drinking water, because we can't not do that.
and enough.
Right, so it's unfortunate, but I'm satisfied with what you said, right? The overall budget still looks good. This, I'm looking at it as a spike, but I also hearing what you're saying, that we can't just leave it there. Maybe periodic, hey, this is where we're at, this is what it's looking like, and, that would be my last thing.
Yeah. I know the Public Works Committee they've been working on this for years, a long time. And no one likes that the bid came in high, but to trustee Eckert's point, yes, we need to move forward with it and get the well drilled and get the tests and, just go on from there. But we have to start.
On that note, I'd be happy to offer a motion.
Please do.
I'd like to offer a motion to approve awarding the permanent well construction contract to Midwest Well Services for a base price of $572,957 plus a 10% contingency of $57,295.70, using impact fees as the funding source.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from trustee Romas to approve the bid of $572,957 and a contingency fee of $57,295.70. That motion has been seconded by trustee Andrews. Any other further questions or discussions on this item? Anyone? Roll call, please.
Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Eckert.
Aye.
Trustee McKeefery. Aye. Trustee Neto.
Aye.
Trustee Romas.
Aye.
Trustee Stevens.
Aye.
President Van Razem.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, 7-0.
All right. Thank you. Moving on, we are off to item 8. Item 8 this evening are planning and zoning items. This evening, we have a presentation by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Whoever is representing, please come forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pull my special pencil.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
There's anyone in the crowd that.
We'll keep working with them for sure.
Hello, my name is Andy Congdon. I'm going to represent the Planning and Zoning Commission today with this fun little PowerPoint that we all kind of helped with making here. So why are we here? So kind of to zoom out, we're trying to address some problems that we've kind of started noticing coming across at the planning and zoning level. We have the comprehensive plan coming up, and what we're trying to do is to get some more tools to put in the toolbox for when we do end up doing the comprehensive plan, we have more options. We're not just at the will of Brown County coming in and just opening their book and telling us this is what we think, and then we have more ability to kind of know what's going on in our community here. So kind of what we're looking for is suggestions at the end here of where the board is sitting, where they would like us to start moving with this, and seeing what kind of input you guys could have so we could take it back and tweak it and think about different ways of, or if there's other things you'd rather have us working on, different ideas that you guys have come up with to help solve some of these problems that we've been noticing. So so we've been working, going back about 6 months on this, and we've had different collaboration with different groups. Brown County Home Builders came in, we had some presentations from them, and they were pretty insightful and kind of came back with all the same stuff that we had been seeing. So that's part of that. And so then we're going to ask Alex here to go ahead and talk about some of the problems with the budget in the future, which is, this will also help address too. So.
Yeah, so the commission requested that I talk a little bit about our levy limit challenges, and I know I gave a similar presentation to the village board back in October, so I won't go through the entire presentation, but I'll try to hit some of the highlights and let people at home understand what the levy limits are and what we can do about it. So levy is the total amount of taxes imposed by the government. So this is the total amount of property taxes that we collect every year. And back in 2005, the state legislature enacted a law that created what we know as levy limits. And essentially what this does is it says, hey, local governments, you can only increase the amount of money that you levy every year equal to the net new construction percentage. And just for some context, back in 2024, amongst all municipalities in Wisconsin, the average net new construction was 1.36%. And in Suamico, we were actually above that at 1.5%. And a good example in Brown County of why this is really a problem, Alloway was at 0.32%. So what the state is saying is, hey, Alloway, you can only increase the amount of money that you collect through property taxes by 0.32%. And if you think about any metric for inflation, you know that we're not collecting nearly as much to cover the cost of inflation. So that is systematically an issue. Now, there are a number of adjustments that the state law allows, and we'll talk about some strategies that municipalities use to kind of get around this levy limit issue. So the main one, I don't have any data on this, but I would imagine that most municipalities use what's called the debt service levy adjustment. And essentially what this is, I liken it to your credit card. We all have a credit card with an available balance on it. Say it's a $10,000 available balance on your credit card. Well, the similar metric for us is the levy adjustment available. And what that is, and I'm going to use layman's terms, that it's a little more nuanced than this, but essentially it's the amount of debt that we pay per year. So for example, in 2025, the Village of Suamico is paying almost $1.6 million just in debt, principal and interest. That is essentially our credit card available balance, that 1.6 million. And if you look at the levy adjustment used, which is 883,000, that's the actual balance of our credit card. So you see we have plenty of room. We had up to technically 1.6 million that we could have used, but we're only using 883,000. So what's the problem? Well, if you look starting back in 2020, every year we typically need about $100,000 more every year to cover all the costs of our services. And so if you extrapolate that out, and 2023 and 2024 was an anomaly. There was some changes in the shared revenue, so that's why you see no increase. But generally $100,000 more per year, okay? The problem is, in 2028, that levy adjustment available drops. And why does it drop? It's because the village is paying off debt, which should be a good thing, right? We're all happy because we're paying off debt. Well, it's actually a problem. The way the state legislates local municipalities, it almost incentivizes local governments to borrow more money. So if we continue on this trend of adding $100,000 per year, you'll see in 2028, we'll actually be levying for more than we're allowed. And why is that a problem? The state has a penalty. It's a dollar for dollar penalty on our shared revenue. So all the state sales tax revenue that the state shares with the municipalities, they would penalize us $1 for every dollar that we went over our levy limit. So there's no benefit for us to go over that levy limit because we'll just get that money taken away through our shared revenue. And even further, in 2036, that number drops to 311,000. So what do we do about all this? There's a number of things that I think I can talk about later. So we're focusing on that 2028 year. And we have to keep it under that $1,071,000. And based on the 25 budget, that means that from today until 2028, we can increase our levy adjustment by 187,000. That comes out to about 62,000 per year, which is far less than the $100,000 per year that we've been experiencing. So there are some options and some considerations for us. One is borrowing for projects, which we don't want to borrow. We don't want to go more into debt, but it is an option. So for things like the Calavera Park Master Plan, we have some parking lots that are in need of great repair. We could borrow for things like fire trucks and snowplows that we have historically tried to set money aside and pay cash for because it costs less than borrowing for them. We do have the closure of several TIDs in the next handful of years, but I will say the amount of revenue that we'll get from closing those TIDs is not substantial enough to actually make much of an impact. We're kind of estimating between $20,000 and $30,000 that we'll get from closing TID 2 next year, but that's only a one-year relief. So that's not something that we can rely on as our savior. Another option that the state allows for is to go to referendum. So when you talk to some legislators about this levy limit issue, they'll tell you, well, if you're in such dire straits and you need to go above that levy limit, you can just go out to referendum, ask the voters for permission to go over your levy limit. And that is true, but the problem is they're not always successful. You can look to our southern border in the village of Howard. They had a public safety referendum, I believe it was last year or maybe 2 years ago, trying to add more police officers and EMS, and that failed. So if you rely on a referendum passing and it fails, then what? And what's likely the real scenario is eventually you're gonna have to reduce services. and/or contributions to our sinking funds, which for us, we have what's called the Equipment Replacement Reserve Fund. So every year, we try to contribute some tax revenue into those funds. Those pay for things like our snow plows and our fire trucks. And there is another element, which is net new construction. So we talked about how you're able to raise your levy by the net new construction percentage. Having a higher net new construction will help, but it's not a long-term strategy. At some point, you'll run out of room to build, right? But it is something that can mitigate some of the pain in the near future. Any questions on that information? Okay. Andy, I think I'll hand it back off.
Perfect.
to
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. So that's the one side, that's the money inside. So the money outside, you can see, you know, there's the cost of water utilities, which is consistently a thorn in people's side they do that survey every year, and I don't think anybody goes on there to say that they like how much they pay for the water. You have the limited areas of growth and increased costs in maintenance and things. 3% year over year is pretty standard, you know, for just payrolls and different maintenance and things like that. And then inflation and uncertainty and future growth potential. So what that means is that there's a chance now to do something about it, but in the future, we may not know what that future holds. But we know what's happening now, so there's things that we can do now. So. The Planning Commission's focus is there's 4 things here that we're going to try to address. One is to facilitate growth in the water and sewer areas. Suamico has limited developable areas.
Sorry.
And then the median house differences in what Brown County is versus what Suamico is. And then the need to facilitate downsizing for people who wish to. So those are the 4 things we're going to try to address here. So why would we try to grow stuff in the sewer and water areas? Well, development into the sewer district is kind of at a standstill. In 2024, there was 30 new homes built in the sewer, but now there's minimal lots remaining. Steve, how many lots did you say that?
Right now, I think there's 5 in developers' hands.
There's 5. And then once they're gone,
There's nothing
there's
coming
no more coming, right?
right
So-
now that we're aware of.
Right, so that's where we're at. So 5 new rooftops, and then we're out of rooftops. So, just to go to show what the cost of doing this thing is, to build one of these, we had staff kind of look into this, and developers have told us, just to do a lot, just to get the lot done, they have to put $50,000 in per lot, just to get, not even to put a shovel in the ground to put a basement in. That's just to get a lot going, in their costs, you know. So that's going to raise the cost of everything just from the get-go as a developer side. The average lot cost is over $100,000 per half acre right now. There's only a few left in residential sewer, really, and what it's saying is the reason that it's so expensive is that there's a high demand due to low inventory. So the number 2 bullet point, Suamico has limited development areas. Current development is by conditional use or planned development, which is kind of, you know, tedious for, we have a lot of times developers and people will come in and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this thing, but we don't want to buy the land yet until we know it's something that we can actually do here. So it's just an extra step for people to have to come in here, and it makes it tedious to try to do any kind of development here where they don't know what they can do or what's allowed, and it's more difficult. So limited areas, yeah, so wetlands and other geographical features kind of limit how we can build going forward. We can't just put out a big field full of apartments, and we just don't have that with the swamplands and the different delineations and different, you know, things like that. So we need some forward thinking on how to approach that. Conservation by design is a great idea. We've had a few times where people have come to us with these kind of interesting ways of putting houses closer together to keep a green space behind it. You know, there was one I remember on County B that was across from like Water's Edge. We did it like a condo instead, but there was a big acreage behind them that was all like forest, which was great. So it was a way to get, you know, it was more dense, but it wasn't really the way it was. So conservation by design, I think, is a good way to try to look going forward too. Or we think is looking forward. So bullet 3, median Brown County house price, you can see the difference there. So the lowest construction of a new house in Suamico was $400,000. So George was good enough to go and actually run these numbers through with a bank, and they found that if you want a $400,000 mortgage, your monthly payment's going to roughly run around $2,900. So to afford that, you need a $140,000 household income, so that would give you a 26% of your income going to rent, which 30% constitutes house poor. And when you're house poor, you're not going on vacations, you're not going to, restaurants in town, you're not purchasing things because you're spending the majority of your income on your housing, and it prohibits economic expansion in the area, and it's a tough thing. So the average household income, and then there's to get to 140,000, two teachers, school teachers who want to come and live here would have a tough time running that kind of level. So it's good people that you want here would have a hard time moving here. The average household income in Suamico right now is 111,000 in 2022. It's probably a little more now, but what that's telling us is that it's cost prohibitive to the average resident here to even buy a new house here. So if you're already living here, it'd be hard to even move across the street. So the last bullet point here, needed to facilitate for downsizing. So this is a big one. Aging population aging population is a real thing. So it is coming. The ability to downsize is virtually impossible due to the cost. So say you have a house and and you're living on a larger area, but you don't want to take care of that land anymore, and you want something smaller. There's not a lot of places that you could go that will allow you to do that. Like if you don't want to take care of a yard, if you don't want to. So basically, if you want to do that, you have to leave Suamico. If you get injured at your job and you can't do what you did and you don't have the income you had, you have to leave Suamico. We're pushing people out, which I don't know if that's one thing or there. But the household size in Suamico has been unchanged since the year 2000 to 2020. What that means is family of 4, kids grow up, go to college, they leave, family leaves, parents leave, new family comes in. And it's harder to stay here. And a lot of it too is because the kids aren't coming back either. So the kids go off to college, they can't buy a new house here, so they find a different community away from their family. And what happens is the family wants to be by them. So then they end up having to leave to be closer to their grandchildren or children because they're not coming back. So it kind of keeps the housing size the same. So over 65 age constitutes 18.3% of population, and it's going to increase to 24. So that's a good chunk of a growth of the older population that has to have somewhere to go. So people, and then I thought this was an interesting little fact. People over 55 years old control 73% of the wealth in this country. So these aren't the people we want to be kind of pushing away. Like these are the people that can afford the things here, go to the restaurants here, contribute here, donate here, and be a good member of society here. And we need to think about the people that want to downsize and give them an option, Okay. So what's the Planning Commission doing to a potential solution? Okay. Oh, you want to go back there? Click it once. Yeah. All the way back to the slide.
It's really lagging behind.
Oh, is it? That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you leave it there, that's fine. So the idea is that we kind of split rural sewer into 3 different types of zones. So now these are numbers here that we've had, then staff has done a lot of work, Steve's done, and everybody's done a lot of work to find these numbers. And I'm not saying these are the hard knock, this is what we want now. These are just what we think would be a good thing to start with and to try to figure out which way to go. So kind of run you through these. R1, so the way the chart runs is R1 would allow for a single-family home with 100 feet of frontage, 1,400 square feet. That's 14,000 square. That's basically what we have now in rural sewer. So that's not really changing a whole lot. R2 would open you up to a slightly smaller frontage and a smaller lot, and then would allow for duplexes on a little larger lot to try to keep the aesthetics a little bit better, so you're not, putting duplex on smaller lot too. And then R3 would allow for a more dense in a situation. So you could add up to multifamily, kind of like what we have on 41 there across from that Shell station. That would be like multifamily. So, there's different places you could do that too. So the main reasons for multiple zones, like I said before, it would be more for like a tool in the toolbox for the comprehensive plan. So when we start looking at the maps and where we think Suamico is going to grow, we can put in these different zones and really kind of show like what we think developers could do in these areas to make it look aesthetically pleasing, keep our character and all that kind of things. Go ahead. So that's kind of the big crux of it there. So the reason we came up with that idea, development trends. Single-family homes with smaller lots is kind of the trend of where development is going now. So a big one, and this is probably the most successful, is mixed use with development with a focal point. So what I mean by that, and we already have a couple of them here. You can look Vickery Village. We have a focal point of the downtown Suamico area, which is beautiful, with surrounding different mixed kind of housing around it. Urban Edge, another perfect example. A very good bustling area with different types of living around it. Howard Commons is another example you can think about in the near immediate area. This is where developers like to go because people want to live there, and they're highly sought after areas for people to want to go to. So there's another one. It's coming in like Ledgeview. There's a whole bunch of different ones that are real large that have been popping up around. So it's kind of the way that development has kind of been shifting towards. Developers aren't really considering costs or Suamico due to cost. If you're fronting all that money just to get a lot going and you have to try to recoup that on a house, it becomes difficult. And the trends are not going towards what we've got here. So it's if we're looking to try to offset a lot of these costs that we're going to start incurring and having problems with in the future, this might be a way to help kind of mitigate that a little bit. So I thought this was interesting. This was a letter that I had actually received before the 2024 election. Oh,
It's coming.
okay. So it's a letter that I received from an organization. I don't know anything about this organization, but I thought it interesting that it was somebody that was, or an organization that is lobbying for these kind of things, kind of trying to push forward these ideas. It just means that there is interest out there and there is more political action that's going to start pressuring places if they're not going to start doing these kind of things. So I thought it was interesting that other places are starting to look at Suamico as a place to start looking at for this kind of stuff. Right, Alex, one more. Then this is a word salad from our comprehensive plan of our last one. So if you don't have to read this whole thing, but I thought the kind of key interesting things in there was it addresses all the problems that I originally had said. They want places for different ages and different incomes, aged care facilities, mixed-use commercial developments. This is page 27 of our chapter 2 of our comprehensive plan. So, we already had the insight back in, was it 2015, to look at this kind of stuff, but it didn't really come into practice a whole lot, so. Go to the next one. So I just thought that was sort of interesting too. So we kind of already have thought about it in the past. So it'd be good to think about it in our future. So conclusion, things kind of looking over, like zooming out again, increasing the amount of lots will generate revenue, which will in turn increase our tax basis. So that's important because we do have to do something about our financial future eventually. Nothing will change current development. Changing any of these things will not cause bulldozers to come in and just plant, all these different, it's not going to change anything that's already here. So we have the power and to be able to choose kind of what these new developments would look like. And the zoning will give us the control, to try to be able to maintain our atmosphere here. Our budget issues in the future with rising costs demand some sort of change. And the big one is smart development will mitigate increasing costs incurred in the future. And what I mean by that is when you add people and you build more things, obviously you're going to add more costs to things. But when you share that across more people, that burden becomes lessened. You're not putting 2 people on one road and then having the rest of the city have to resurface that road. You're having more people to spread that out. It's going to be a problem regardless with costs in the future, but it'll be less impactful and it'll be a lot easier to try to, even if you had the referendum with less money asked per person than if you had a few people trying to front, you know, the rest of it. So I think smart development can really help break that cycle of rising costs and adding people, rising costs and adding people. Because if you keep on this path here, there is a point where you come where there is no more development, and now you have to figure out what you're doing from then on. So our idea is to try to soften that a little bit. So the next one. So suggestions now. So what we're looking for as a commission is more board input on how we can kind of fine tune this and make this better. And if this is not something or anything that can be done or is zero interest, then give us an idea of what you would like us to start working on so that we can start working on that and start working on things at our level that we can try to help with any problems here. So, and the rest of the commission is here too. We're all here for questions and things like that. If anybody has any comments or anything, we'd like to hear from you guys now.
So this all started from one of the folks, Mr. Zastro, who is well-experienced, and many months ago, he said, you know, we've got this comprehensive plan coming up. We need to quit being a rubber stamp commission. So instead of just being, you know, rubber stamp zoning, we need to do more planning, and we need to offer the board options. So that went down the road, and I see some folks here who came in and gave the commission input as well. That started the commission to start rolling around with these ideas over many months. I don't even remember, how long ago did we start this?
It was roughly 6 months ago.
Yeah, at least 6 months ago. So this is really in preparation to offer to the board. Here's the current situation, which I think you saw. Here is what we're facing in 2028, and what we potentially are dealing with if we do nothing. And I think to some degree you've seen that, but there's a lot more to it. And then here are some options. And I think some of those options, you know, that's what based on advice and based on what the commission has put together, that's what I think they brought forward today. By the way, this is the first time I've seen this. We've discussed it on planning and zoning, but this is the first time I've seen this in its totality. So it's really to offer all of you to get the rest of the board's input on where do you want to go with this? What do you want to do? What do you want to see your planning and zoning commission, how do you want to see them approaching this problem?
Well, as far as the comprehensive plan goes, I mean, if you pack more people in, those more people are going to want more services that we already can't afford. So what do you do there?
Well, like I said before, when you add more, it mitigates the cost burden over time. If you put 2 people on a road and you're sharing those services.
But
for a
these
dump
are
truck,
services we don't need, and then the closer people get in, the more services they'll demand. You move in, like from Milwaukee, and you say, I don't want to live in Milwaukee anymore, but you make Suamico, Milwaukee, and we just can't afford that.
I think with the zoning,
Sidewalks and leaf collection, and that's all, it's expensive, especially with what we're looking at in 2028.
Who do we think our future residents will be? That's really, I mean, we talk about Milwaukee, that's an option, but who do we think that's going to be?
I mean, I just say, people are always escaping from somewhere, but then they bring that here and want to make here what it was there. They're taking their problems. They're trying to make us them. And I don't know.
I think one of the fundamental problems, and this is what got my attention, is this idea with the sewage services area. So we know the increase, and we've talked about this as long as many of us have been on the board, the tremendous cost being supported by the sewer serviced areas and how that cost increases. the only way to really decrease that cost is to get more people to utilize that service.
It is, but those more people also need more infrastructure. It's something, it's a continuous cycle. So yes, it does, but no, it doesn't in a way, because if you add too many more, you need more infrastructure. I mean, even like the impact fees are designed, you can only use them with new infrastructure. Sewer, we changed a little because it's a connection fee now. It doesn't have to be necessarily new infrastructure.
It's still an impact fee as of now.
So I see that there is a problem. For myself even, I would like to downsize and stay in Suamico, but I'm not going to gain anything financially out of it because it's going to cost me so much to build a smaller house yet. So I stay where I am, and so my second part here is, you talked about the R1, 2, 3, the frontage sizes. You've kind of shared a little bit, some other developers are going with smaller stuff in some other communities. So what size are they kind of going with? Are they going the 80, 70?
That's kind of where we got those numbers from.
Yeah.
It's kind of both, 70 and 80?
Yeah, 80 is common in Howard. They're actually considering 60 by plan development, as small as 60 feet.
Okay.
I actually believe the planning commission discussed our RS1 going 90 and 12,000 square feet per lot, but rather than the current 114,000.
Okay, well, you're looking for where the board stands. Well, I support, at least, we need to make a change on that, the frontage size. It needs to go smaller. What that number is for sure,
Right.
I don't know, but
More research, yeah.
we need to change it. And if there's other information that can be brought back to us to help us with that decision, that would be great. And so it's not always more services they want, but with more people that come in, there can be more businesses that open up. And that is what people are wanting also. If it's restaurants or a shop or, various kinds of business. That's my take on it.
Others?
I like the zoning option. I've had several conversations or a couple conversations with Steve about understanding what the deterrent was to the development of Suamico. When I first came on, I spent some time looking at the budgets. Alex and I had a conversation after that, and was alluding to all of the comments that, in your slides here, that basically just by looking at, the average salary for the staff of the village, the people that work here can't afford to live here. And that's just a point blank, that's facts. So I am in support of reviewing the potential changes into the zoning. The logic, the way Steve described it to me and the way you're bringing it up makes sense as well. I'm interested, I'm a little hesitant just because I don't know a lot about it, but this mixed-use development with a focal point, I understand Vickery Village, where we've got the Riverside, and that's this whole area, and then Urban Edge. What location would we be even, and if you don't know this, just say, but is there something that's
would
kind
say
of been
that's-
thrown at the wall yet?
Right, no, that's this is more of just development trends, is what's happening, is these new developments, or that's kind of the way they're coming. So to where they would be, that would be more of the board to figure out during a comprehensive plan update. And this would be a tool to be able to kind of push that if that's something that we saw happening. Or if there was a developer that approached us and said this was a great spot for that, we could zone it in such that it would be easy for them to do.
Okay. I would be more interested in knowing more about what that is, personally.
Other questions?
I had the opportunity to come in late to this, and my takeaway from this is that we need more rooftops in this community to offset some of the challenges that Alex has shared with us, and we know businesses, we have some people that sit on this board that have businesses probably would like to see more turnstile, more people coming through the turnstile. I guess what I took away from listening to this group is that we as a board have to get comfortable that in the comprehensive plan, that what's more likely, we're gonna see more R2s and R3s than 1s in our future. And if we're uncomfortable with that as a board, we have to address that now as part of this comprehensive plan. But what I've heard from outside people and I've witnessed from other communities, that's the trend. And so the question we have is what will we do different if we can't do more rooftops and more R2 and R3, we can define the widths. If we can't do that, I'm open for some suggestions, how we address this. And so that's what I heard from all the committee members and some of the people that came from the outside who educated us. And I heard as far as from some developers that Suamico is just not competitive when it comes to new development, when it comes to homes. So-
Absolutely correct.
Yeah, and so we have got to address that voice outside of our own. Go ahead.
What's the median value of a home in Hobart?
I don't know, we didn't look at that.
Okay.
We've got through Brown County, but not each municipality. I don't know that's, we'd have to look at their comprehensive plans, see when they were last updated
To
and
see where
whatnot.
it's at, right? Get an idea.
But you can just look at what Howard and Hobart have done in the last 10 years and what Suamico has done in the sewer and water area. Other than Chambers Hill, we've done nothing.
Yeah.
And Chambers Hill is full.
So I like this document. I appreciate the work that went into it. It's good stuff. Personally, my position is having smaller homes does not bother me at all. All you have to do is look back at a neighborhood that was built in the 1950s. You'll see a very peaceful, friendly, happy community in small homes on small lots, right? No? I mean, that's, we've seen it.
Yeah.
So
Smaller, single-family is,
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so, and that's gonna be my, I guess, my point. So I'll continue to read this, digest it. Thank you for the information. Definitely will take it into account with a comprehensive plan. And that's the key, in my opinion, is that it's a thought-out process. It's carefully thought out in the big picture, not siloing into, oh, we need more lots, or we need smaller lots, or we need apartments, or whatever. We don't want to do that. We want to take it all in one big picture. I think that's the point. You're just giving us this
It's a-
information so that we can bring that to bear when we do that. So that's my 2 cents on the topic.
I don't think you have to look any further than earlier agenda item. You're looking at spending $9 million on a well and a water tower paid for by impact fees. You're not going to be getting any impact fees if we don't address why they're not coming to Suamico.
So what-
And whether that's multifamily, duplex or smaller single family, we need to address why the development is not happening here.
And I think one of the pieces of that puzzle would be, is to find out what the medium household costs are in the communities, like in Howard, De Pere, all those other communities, to get an understanding. Because what we're presuming, right, is that we can take the medium cost of a house from $400,000 and drop it down to an affordable amount. We're presuming that. But is that true? When it's $100,000 for a half acre, was it a half acre, I think?
It wasn't even, that's actually a 14,000 square foot lot.
Yeah, okay, so third of an acre is $100,000 for the lot alone. That's, you're talking about I don't know what a house goes for nowadays to build it, $150, $250 a square? I don't even
Not
know,
even
you may know
close.
better than I.
you're looking at most of the specs that are going up right now are 450,000 out here.
So you build
Or
a
500.
1,500, well, I'll make the math easy for myself. You build a 1,000 square foot little house at $300 a square foot, you're at 400,000. That's why I think it's important to not just look at this. I think it's important to look in the bigger picture, understand where those costs are, et cetera, and what we're really doing to make a difference.
And I do believe we have somebody, a couple of them in the audience right now that can give you some of those numbers today. They probably have what you're asking me.
Then I shall remain silent and listen.
We've got Commissioner Houseladden had something to share.
My name is George Houseladden. I live at 2194 Maggie Lane. I moved to Suamico in 2002, and I'm a retired engineering and manufacturing executive. So I've done a lot of hiring and firing of people. I'm also I will, as part of the work on the commission, I probably supplied a lot of the base data, did a lot of data collection that we talked about. And Commissioner Congdon mentioned in his presentation, but I'd like to just reemphasize the point, and that is average household size. In Brown County, between the 2000 and 2020 census, the household size dropped, and not hard numbers, but from about 2.5 to 2.4 people per household. Doesn't sound like much. At the same time, over that same period, Suamico's number didn't move. It stayed right at about 2.7. However, if that trend, if Suamico starts to follow the population trends of the rest of Brown County, and we do not add one resident, we want to have the same number of residents in 2030 we had in 2020, we will have to have 400 more residential units in the village, just because of the demographics of family size. And if you look at what's referred to as Generation Z and what I refer to as the COVID generation, a group of people, 12 years of people who've gone through the educational and socialization process as children, who had a significant part of that demonstrated, to think that they're going to behave like we did as consumers in the future without that impacting them in some way is, I think, is a leap of faith. So I think we are, and in other cities, other communities, even statewide, we are already seeing family size dropping. We are seeing the millennial and Generation Z number of weddings or number of family units drop. And it's very likely, in fact, it's a given, it's not very, it's a statistical given that if we, at the end of the 2030 census, we're going to see a drop in that 2.7 number as average family size in Suamico. And either we're going to lose people or we're going to have to add units. I mean, those are just unfortunately, that's the 800-pound gorilla in the unit, and we stay 800-pound gorilla in the room. And we stand a chance if we don't do something proactive as what we put before the board tonight. We may miss the market, and we may be trying to sell an obsolete product. An unfortunate obsolete product becomes Suamico because the new people, the new family units, the new groups that were born after 2000 are going to behave totally differently socially than the way the people in this room, the people in leadership have done. And I guess as a person who worked on this from that standpoint and has been and totally support everything we put together in front of the board tonight, I would really say that in my professional opinion, that is probably the number one issue facing us, is that are we prepared for the demographic changes that we know are coming? Because they're here. The first COVID class graduated from high school in 2020. And we have, and there are 12 groups of children. And at Bayport, they graduate 450 kids every year. So somewhere at the end of 12 years, there's going to be 50,000 kids who went through the Howard Suamico schooling system who had a major disruption in their development culture. And if you want to have something to think about, use the metaphor of cell phones. Look how the kids nowadays treat cell phones. And we actually, when we made the decisions we did as the leaders during the COVID crisis, we actually encouraged, even indirectly, encouraged a complete shift in how kids communicate. Well, if we did that with how kids communicate, then we probably are doing the same thing with how they're going to design their family units and how they're going to live and how they're going to, what kind of housing they want in the future. So I think that my passion with this whole thing is that I really think, in addition to just dealing with that, I think that we stand a real chance of missing the market.
Well, let's hope our comprehensive plan, again, it's twofold. There is the market that we're missing. There is the younger individuals who we'd like to bring to this community who are going to spend, 18 years here or longer, with their families. That's certainly a big piece of this, and we need to do that. The bigger piece of this is, without any kind of attention to the comprehensive plan, if we were just to rubber stamp what we have and take it forward, we have a significant budget issue ahead of us with this community, which is not sustainable. And we're not being responsible to the folks in our sewer service area, and we're not being responsible to our citizens who are growing older. And by the way, that population, I saw the numbers were for the United States. The population in the state of Wisconsin, which I know very well from what I do professionally, the population in the state of Wisconsin over the age of 60 will be over 26% by the year 2030. Those people require more services. They're not cutting their own lawns. They want to downsize. Those are a lot of the people who are living in this community, and I am one of those people on this board. So that's a big issue. What I heard discussion, and thank you for pulling that all together. But what I heard, if I was to draw consensus, not unanimous, but some consensus from the board, was three factors. Let's look at lot size. Come back, Planning and Zoning Commission. Explain to us, what R1, R2, R3 means, specifically in terms of diversification of lot size, what that means, and what the median impact on value is for that. So can we start building that out? Is that, and again, not unanimous, but is that the general consensus that I heard from the board, or was there something else?
Yeah.
Well, that's right on. Are there other comments or discussion on this from the board? I would open it up to the audience for public hearing, but at this point, we're in the preliminary phase of this. I think when Planning and Zoning has a recommendation to offer the board that the board's going to vote on, that would be the time for public comment on this. And also, I would encourage everybody who's listening today, come to the Planning and Zoning Commission, because we are trying very hard not to just be rubber stamp zoning, but also be planning. And the Planning and Zoning Commission is a place where folks can speak a little bit more freely, and we're not as constrained as we are here. Anything else from the board? Anything else from the commission? Commission members, anyone? We've got two commission members who are typically not as silent as they've been tonight.
Maybe I will make a comment.
Could you, I'm sorry, I hate to put you through the formality, but
Mark Thompson, 2091 Elvira Way. As we have this discussion, and I've been on the commission for quite a while, Suamico is changing. It's changed. And I remember 20 years ago, it was a community where everybody came in and they wanted big houses, big yards, and that was the development. And then, like George had mentioned, COVID hit. And when you look at the next generation doesn't want the same things that people had 20 years ago. They want something significantly different. Like Nicole, you had asked, about different housing type complexes, or maybe that's not the right word. But they want smaller yards. They want community. This is a great community, and we've had a great community with large yards. And just think of these people, they want to spend time with their neighbors and stuff. And that's a lot of the feedback that we got. So, as we think about this, and we think about the comprehensive plan, and we think about what this community looks like, I would ask that you take some of those things into consideration, because they really are fundamental changes of the younger generation. And, we got to be very cognizant of the current generation that we have, but the younger generation is really what's going to move things forward as it relates to housing development, as it relates to businesses, as it relates to infrastructure, sharing of costs, and those types of things. So that's just what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, all set. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for those who attended, much appreciated.
Thank you.
Again, please come to the Planning and Zoning Commission, where we will be taking up the discussion that we had this evening and trying to get something to bring forward to the board. All right, moving on, we are going to item 8B, which is a public hearing request from Big Sky Real Estate to rezone SU 686 and SU 687 from agricultural farmland preservation to rural residential. Zoning Administrator Dunks.
Thank you. We are looking at about 75 acres here. It's mainly rural development around it, some public lands and institutions with our Calavera Park and a church that's out there. To the west of this is the town of Pittsfield. When zoning out of ag farmland preservation, there are 4 things that need to be considered. The first one would be the rezoned land is better suited for use not allowed in farmland preservation zoning. We don't allow single-family residential within ag farmland unless it is part of the farming operation. So it is planned to be a single-family development, so it does meet that requirement. The zoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Our future land use map does show this as future residential use. Number 3 would be the rezoning is substantially consistent with Brown County Farmland Preservation Plan. With only 75 acres coming out, we still remain substantially compliant with that plan. And I believe they got to redo the plan either next year, 26 or 27. Rezoning, number 4 would be the rezoning will not substantially impair or limit current or future ag use of other protected farmland. All surrounding land currently in the ag farmland preservation will continue to have their property accessible from existing roads, and it would not affect any of that property. Sewer and water service are not available at this time, and no plans have been made for any extension for those utilities to service this or any of the surrounding areas. So rural residential would be the appropriate classification if rezoning to a residential. Planning Commission motion was to recommend approval of the rezone by a 5-to-1 margin. Thank you.
Other questions for Zoning Administrator Dunks? Do we have a representative, a developer representative? Is there anything that they would like to share? No? There are no questions, and there is no one who wishes to make a public comment on this item? No? Then we could certainly entertain a motion.
Well, so this is just the public hearing portion. So you would open it up for public comment, open up the public hearing, and then you got to
Motion to
close it.
open.
Okay, so we have a motion to open up the public hearing, public comment. Is there a second?
You actually don't
You
need a
don't
motion.
need it, but I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, so. I thought
Someday
I
we'll
tried-
get this right.
I thought I tried to do
Someday.
that, but let's make sure.
He has the
I'm gonna have
right.
to go back to my Roberts.
You have the right and power to request a motion in a second,
You do, but you don't need it.
and then you have a motion in a second.
All right. Is there anyone who wishes to comment on this? Open up public hearing. Anybody who wishes to comment?
And you as the chair can close it at any time.
Okay. I'm officially closing it now.
There's a motion, second.
And then you'd move to item 8C, which is the actual action.
It's already been a long night.
Ah,
All right, moving on to 8C. Ordinance 2025-03, rezoning SU 686 and SU 687 from agricultural farmland preservation to rural residential. Zoning Administrator Dunks.
As presented
Okay.
for your public hearing.
Wow. All right. Now can I take a motion?
You may.
Oh, I'm so
May I ask a
excited.
question first?
You sure may.
So is this, when you were talking about rubber stamping before, in the previous thing,
Uh-huh.
is this an example of that? Like, when we see something that comes up, and you just address each thing as it comes, instead of having a system in place where it just happens because the system is there? Is that what you meant by that? Is this an example, is my question?
Of
the rubber
of-
stamping you were
Of rubber
talking-
stamping by the
Yeah.
commission? This was really adherent to the ordinances that we have in
Right.
place. Right. So if we change those, I'll go back. If we
Yeah.
would change to R1, R2, R3 designations, that becomes part of our comprehensive plan. We're held to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily, yes, I guess, to your point.
No,
there
it's a
w-
question, it's not a point.
Okay.
Just,
To your question, there would be rubber stamping, but it would be a rubber stamping of something that this board and the Planning and Zoning Commission put in place as part of the comprehensive plan. I don't think that anyone rubber stamps the comprehensive plan. We adhere to the comprehensive plan and the ordinances. So we're looking at documenting our comprehensive plan for us to adhere to as a community and as a board.
so this process that we go through almost every other week, or every other meeting, we would still continue going through that if we had a comprehensive plan that would define an area as both agriculture or residential.
Yes, but to some degree, it would be simplified because we wouldn't be going through and using a planned development district all the time as a way to manage things outside of our comprehensive plan, because by changing the zoning R1, R2, R3, now we're increasing the options that are out there, so we don't necessarily need a planned development district again.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Did I summarize that appropriately? Anybody feel free to chime in?
Yeah, the common term you'll hear is by right. So developers may look at a certain area and go, okay, is this, what I want to do, is it allowable by right, or is it by a PDD or conditional use? And if it's a PDD or conditional use, there's some more steps that they have to go through, and it's a little more risk, and they have more money up front. Whereas if they know it's by right, they know they can do it as long as they meet all the applicable codes that we
Which is
have.
essentially the motion we make every single time we do this, is we allow it and then we say following the applicable. And that's
So-
what I was trying to get to.
So something close to your heart and close to many of the individuals on this board is the further limitation of bureaucracy, or elimination of elements of bureaucracy.
Plus you said I had a heart.
We always knew that. I can hear it sometimes right sitting next to you when you're angry with me.
I'm never angry.
All right.
All right, let's go.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-03, a rezone of SU 686 and SU-687 from agricultural farmland preservation to rural residential.
I'll second.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the rezoning of SU 686 and SU 687 as stated by trustee Andrews, and that was seconded by trustee Romas. Any other further questions or comments on this? If not, we'll have a roll call, please.
Trustee Eckert.
Aye.
Trustee Neto.
Aye.
Trustee McKeefery.
Aye.
Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Stevens.
Aye.
Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
President Van Rossum.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
You don't have to do 9A.
Okay, moving on to 9B, Resolution 25006, accepting the grant of $51,956.16 from the Wisconsin Department of Health Services for EMS training and supplies. Chief Bertler.
Thank you. I promise I won't make you read the whole resolution again, so.
Thank you.
The Suamico Fire Department has been awarded funding through the Emergency Medical Services Funding Assistance Program from the State of Wisconsin Department of Health Services. The total funding request, or grant that you stated, was $51,956.16. This kind of falls in line with our strategic plan and how to pay for EMS supplies and equipment. Some of these supplies, equipment that we'll be purchasing or hope to purchase is some replacement AEDs at the Village Hall, possibly adding some in our Parks location, It would also pay for training that some of our personnel go to for EMS services. And then one of those trainings would be training one of our staff members to actually provide the CPR training that our village incurs through outside provider, having that in-house, they could provide that training in-house. So I just want to give a special shout out to grant writer Ben Rogers and Assistant Chief Chris Gaversick for their work on this. And the before you action is to approve or deny Resolution 25006, accepting the grant of $51,956.16 from the State of Wisconsin Department of Health Services. Is there any questions?
Are there any strings attached?
The only strings, like I said, Ben kind of went through this, is you have to, you know, they have to be EMS equipment, so it has to be AEDs, medical supplies, that type of stuff. It can't be used for firefighting equipment like, you know, fire hose or fire training, that type of stuff. It has to be specifically EMS training or supplies.
No salaries?
Nope.
or-
So we did get a grant similar to this 2 or 3 years ago. That included salaries. This does not include salaries in it.
Okay. The training, is it can existing people
Correct,
take
yep.
it, or is it for, okay,
Yep.
okay.
Any other questions?
If there's no other questions, then we could certainly look for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 25006, accepting the grant of $51,956.16 from the State of Wisconsin Department of Health Services for the EMS supplies and training.
So we have a motion from trustee Romas to approve the resolution 25006, accepting the grant of $51,956.16. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from trustee Neto this evening. Any other further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call, please.
Trustee McKeefery.
Aye.
Trustee Romas.
Aye.
Trustee Stevens.
Aye.
Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Eckert.
Aye.
Trustee Neto.
Aye.
President Van Rossum.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, 7-0.
Thank you. All right, we are off to 9C. 9C this evening is Resolution 25007, accepting the Firehouse Subs Safety Foundation grant of it's a great night in the village of Suamico, $22,545 for Jaws of Life equipment. Chief Bertler.
Yes, thank you. So the Suamico Fire Department was awarded $22,545 for Jaws of Life equipment from Firehouse Subs Foundation. This is something that we've been trying to secure for multiple years. So it's kind of reduced costs through a certain vendor. This probably would, if we had to buy it from a typical vendor, it would probably be about $40,000 worth of equipment right here. So just want to thank grant writer Ben Rogers for his hard work on this. He did quite a bit of research on how to secure this funding. Like I said, it's probably something that we would have requested for our new fire truck as a capital budget request, but we don't have to now. So just want to extend thanks to him for securing this equipment for us, so saving the village some money. So, and before you again is to approve or deny Resolution 25007, accepting the grant of $22,545 from the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation for the Jaws Life equipment. So every time you go there, they always ask if you want to kind of round up.
Yeah.
That's what some of this money is used for. So I want to thank them, especially since they're local as well.
Terrific.
Can you clarify one thing for me?
Yep.
I wasn't sure if I heard correctly. Is the $22,545 going to pay the entire amount of the Jaws of Life? or
Correct,
a
yep,
portion of- okay.
it does, yep. So they work through I'll say a third-party vendor that
Yep.
gives them a reduced cost,
All right.
which helps out kind of, like I said, if we had to buy this from a typical all-right vendor that we use, it would be about $40,000.
Thank you.
So,
Wow.
so quite the savings, but appreciate Ben doing that research for that, and something that we would have known, and for the securing this grant for us.
Okay, are there questions for Chief Bertler on this item?
So these are, one quick thing, these are battery powered, so allow us to basically take them out of the truck a lot faster, say if they're down in a, off the highway, deep hole, whatever, be able to grab them and kind of quickly remove off the truck versus runs we have now are hydraulics, we have to bring the whole unit, or it can only go so far from the truck, so helps out a lot, especially for speed.
Excellent.
Very good. Is there someone who'd like to offer a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 25007, accepting the grant of $22,545 from the Firehouse Subs Public Safety for the purchase of Jaws of Life equipment.
Excellent. Trustee Andrews has offered a motion to approve Resolution 25007, a grant, the acceptance of a grant of $22,545 from Firehouse Subs Safety Foundation. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Excellent. We have a second from Trustee Stevens. All right. Any other further questions, comments? We'll have a roll call, please.
Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Stevens.
Aye.
Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Eckert.
Aye.
Trustee Neto.
Aye.
Trustee McKeefery.
Aye.
President Van Rossum.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. All right, item 10 this evening, administrative items. Item 10A is grant writer agreement extension. Administrator Kaker.
Thank you. So we've got some newer trustees, so I'll give a little bit of history with this. So the Village of Suamico, Howard, and the Howard Suamico School District entered into a shared grant writer agreement back in January of 2022. That contract was for 2 calendar years with an automatic renewal to extend 1 year unless written notice was provided to the other parties by October of 2023. Now, in March of 2023, an extension of the agreement was agreed to by all 3 entities through 2025. And the existing agreement is automatically renewed for 1 year unless written notice is provided to the other parties by October of this year. Ben Rogers was hired, and technically he's a Howard Suamico School District employee in January of 2022 to serve in that role, and has generated over $184,000 in grant revenue for the Village of Suamico. The cost agreement to the Village of Suamico has been approximately $17,000 a year. So by the end of 2025, our total cost will be somewhere around $70,000, maybe a little bit less. At a previous meeting, there was some discussion on contracting with a private firm for grant writing, and it is a fair question. It's also very hard to compare apples to apples, what our results would look like without having both entities applying for the same grant. I do see a lot of value in our current agreement, notably the flexibility to apply for opportunities that may seem to be a bit of a stretch. The latest example was the interoperable grant, which the village was awarded $32,000 in funding. I would have been very hesitant to hire a private firm at a cost of well over $100 an hour to chase that grant, which at the face value, we did not appear to have a high probability of success. This agreement also has the individual much more involved in researching grant opportunities and assisting with post-award work, which is necessary, that most consulting firms wouldn't be able to do, or they would for a hefty price. Recognizing the individual and his desire to know if he will still be employed in 2026, I wanted to bring the discussion to the village board now to see if there was an interest in either motioning support for the 1-year extension or approving an additional 2 years to the contract, similar to what we did in 2023. The village would still retain the right to terminate the agreement at any time with 60 days' notice. And a copy of what that agreement would look like is included in your packet. Another option would be to table the discussion and revisit the issue as we get closer to October, keeping in mind, however, the sensitivity to the individual currently employed in that role. And all options are going to be subject to concurrence by the other 2 entities involved. I'm the first person taking it to their governing body for discussion. So you have a few motions that are at your disposal. One would be to move to express a desire to automatically renew the shared grant writer services operational agreement for 1 additional year, which would be through 26, or move to approve the operational agreement through 2027 as presented, or move to table a discussion on the operational agreement until a time that you feel comfortable, as well as any other motion that you may have in your minds. And with that, I'll hand it back over to the village board for any questions or comments.
Other questions?
Is it what, excuse me, what is Suamico paying him now? 17?
Per year, correct.
And going forward, we're talking 17?
It would be subject to whatever his compensation is from the school district times our 20% cost share. So every year he might get, well, just like any other employee, you know, he
Yeah,
might
yeah,
get
I
a
understand
couple
that,
percentage increase.
but we're at the school district's mercy.
Well, we certainly have conversations between myself and the administrator and Howard and the school district superintendent as to what that should look like. So we all do reviews with him, acknowledging that he's technically an employee of the school district.
I'm fine with extending it, but I'd like to see the number they come up with first. I don't want to just sign a blank check.
You may do that.
Yeah.
I think that's, well, okay.
Just my thoughts.
Well, we know it's going to be 17,000 for 2025, because that's what's
Yeah, I think it.
contract.
Is it?
Yeah, so one of the challenges is that the school district has their financial calendar is, I believe, June through July or July through June. So it's never matching up. And so we have to take an assumption as to what that increase will be. But it's, the past few years, it's always between a couple percentage points.
We could also cap it.
And we could cap it.
In a
if we wanted
motion,
to.
we could cap not to exceed $20,000 per year.
Yeah.
We
That'd be
also,
okay.
Yeah.
we also have the right to give 60-day notice.
Right.
Correct.
Right, so, but history, if it repeats itself with the school district, those raises for their employees is something in the 2-3%.
As a spouse of a current employee, yes, I'm well aware that it's not typically more than a couple percentage
Yeah,
points.
so, and so Ben is while he's had great success for us, it's only Ben, right? So
Correct.
in the event Ben finds better opportunities, what happens?
Then we would look to hire somebody else.
Okay,
So the agreement that we have with the school district does not technically include Ben. We're contracting with the school district to provide grant writing services for the village, similar to our animal control contract, where we don't technically contract with Matt Atkinson. We contract with the village of Howard to provide animal control services. Matt is the person for that today, but that could change.
I mean, even at $20,000, a couple of things. So number one, this is one of the opportunities that we have to collaborate with the school district, and while that may not always be a good idea, this is a good idea. It has been a good idea, and collaboration with the school district is a good idea in general. But even at $20,000, when you look at the return on investment, I mean, that's just, it's a tremendous return on investment to have this position filled.
Oh, I get that, but I don't want to
You know,
we don't
just say yes without,
right.
I don't want to say, yes, I'll spend that without knowing how much. I mean, it's just the way I am.
Does that $184,000 include the grant that we just talked about today?
It includes the 22,000 for the firehouse subs. It does not include the 51,000, reason being, that grant opportunity is similar to like how you score 17 on your ACT if you just put your name on it.
Ah, gotcha.
I don't know that I could give full credit to Ben. He did look at it, and he did some research on it, and we
No, I
appreciate
appreciate
that,
the
but we didn't add it
distinction,
to
yeah.
his total. I think that'd be a little
Wait a
inflated.
minute, I got
number.
17 on my AC.
Yeah.
What are you talking
What's
about?
going on here?
So every provider in the
we might be
state
having to talk about
receives
the
this funding as long as they
guy's
submit the
problem.
proper paperwork.
And I
Got your
don't-
name right.
He can correct me, Alex, Administrator Kicker, but I believe the one we got 2 years ago, we also did not include.
I think we did, because that was new for us.
Okay.
So we did include it.
I would be in favor of looking at capping it at $20,000 for 2 years. I think 2 years is reasonable for a contract.
Just to clarify, that's annually.
Correct.
Correct.
And understand, it's just a cap. So if it did come back and it was $20,407, it would just be an action of the board to offset that. All we're looking at is a way of keeping it under some control.
Yeah.
So you just,
Yeah.
oh, thanks very much for, yeah. So I'd be happy to make that motion.
Please do.
I'd like to move that we express a desire to automatically renew the shared grant writer services operational agreement for the, my bad, excuse me, move to approve the operational agreement through 2027 as presented with a cap of $20,000 per year.
Trustee Romas has offered a motion to approve the grant writer agreement for 2 years with a cap of $20,000 annually. Is there a second?
Second.
We got a second from trustee Andrews. All right, any other further comments or questions? All right, let's do a roll call.
Trustee Stevens.
Aye.
Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Eckert.
Aye.
Trustee Neto.
Aye.
Trustee McKeefery.
Aye.
Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
President Van Rozen.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Administrative item 10B, Wisteria Circle, concept of accepting the ROW and roadway improvement dedication from the Wisteria Circle Homeowners Association Development. Director Smits.
All right, thank you. A few residents of the Wisteria Circle development have come to the village staff requesting information on if the dedication of the right-of-way and roadway within Wisteria Circle would be possible. This was a private development within the Whisper Ridge subdivision and was completed as a conservation by design. Through the process of doing a conservation by design and keeping it private has created some unique factors to the development. There is not adequate space for a normal 70-foot right-of-way. Building setbacks are much closer to the road. Lots are non-conforming. The roadway is the same width as the other roads within Whisper Ridge, being at 28 feet of back-to-back of curb. The village currently does have a 60-foot easement for our water, sewer, and storm within the development, which you can see on the screen at this time. So the development has come to the village staff several times now, and the committee this year has entertained accepting it. The reasons, I guess, that the village, or the committee has decided that it would be an opportune time for this is listed in the analysis below. I'm not going to go through each one, but some of the basics were the density in there, of housing is much higher than your standard 100-foot lot. They do pay the same in tax rate as everybody else, all the other residents in the village. So in theory, they're contributing, quite large of the tax base that you wouldn't normally get if this was a traditional development. The roadway's in good shape, even though it's private. It is, we believe, built to village standards. We've inspected it. It looks good. There's no rutting or any severe failures in the asphalt. Curb looks good. The committee looked at what it would cost to resurface this. So, if we take this on, it's going to be up for the village to pay for once it's up for resurfacing. In today's cost, it's about $90,000 for that 1,400 feet of road. Again, the density in there is actually higher than you normally would have on a typical development. So they're paying their share to resurface that roadway. Snow removal was a big factor. A handful of years ago, we had some harsher winters. They couldn't get